All right, welcome to Epic Group Cast. Today,
comic book cast.
A little bit of comic book, a little bit of movies here and there. Today we're going to be talking about. We just had the San Diego International Comic-Con convention the last weekend.
It's a Comic-Con convention because the con in Comic-Con means convention. So then we went to the ER room.
Well, okay, at Comic-Con, they announced several big things at the convention, and we're going to be talking about some of the bigger things that they announced. A lot of it has to do with comics, and a lot of it has to do with movies, so it kind of goes well, this being comic and movie casts and things like that. So, talk about this today. We've got myself, Jordan.
I'm Lawrence.
And I am Anthony.
Alright, so we'll just kind of kick things off here with probably the biggest news. It's the news that everyone that was at Comic-Con was arguing that this is the biggest piece of news that they've got this year at the con, and that is the sequel to Man of Steel is actually going to be Batman versus Superman. And
Warner Brothers said it would be Batman versus Superman or Superman versus Batman. They weren't sure what title they were going to have.
I love that,
But the thing is,
it's the same thing.
No, the thing is if this is Superman's sequel, he deserves top billing.
Clearly not, because from what I know, this is how I view it. Whenever Warner Brothers comes out and says, hey, we just had a very successful Man of Steel movie coming off of the end, and Christopher Nolan produced it. Remember, he's the guy that did the very popular Batman trilogy, and you know what we're going to do to kickstart the Man of Steel series? We're going to bring in Batman.
It's already kind of kickstarted at this point. Let's just do another Superman movie.
Well, see, I'm kind of sad that they're doing it this way because I wanted Superman to hit $1 billion on his own without Batman's help.
Not going to happen.
But people said after that first film, how do you do something bigger? Well, you throw Batman in the movie. That's one way of doing something bigger.
True.
And something that's never been done before.
I just hate the idea of a versus movie rather than team-up movie.
Well, it'll be a team-up movie.
But it'll be based on Dark Knight Returns. It's not going to be.
Well, okay. Well, I'll say this. Right now, all we know about Batman vs. Superman, their sequel to Man of Steel, is that as of right now, we are under the assumption that David Goyer, the screenwriter from Man of Steel, is attached to it.
No, he's writing, and Snyder
is directing.
Is also writing. They're both writing.
Okay, they're both writing. Okay, yes. And
Snyder will direct.
Nolan
will executive produce.
Okay.
Amy Adams is returning.
Yeah.
And Lawrence Fishburne. Okay. Henry Cavill, of course.
Yeah.
And
Diane
Lane. Okay. Are all attached to be in this film so far.
I'm sure they signed on for multiple movies anyways.
Right. No news on Batman.
Yeah.
But
they told us that the source material that they're going to be using is going to be based off the graphic novel by Frank Miller of The Dark Knight Returns.
Right.
Which is the whole story of it is you've got old Batman who's retired and is an alcoholic. He comes back to fight crime back in Gotham, but he's 60 years old. Right. And he's a much more violent, blah, blah, Batman.
They introduced it by reading a quote from that graphic novel, is how they set it up, instead that they would borrow from it.
Yeah. Okay, because here's my problem with it, first of all. Dark Knight Returns, obviously a Batman comic.
Yes.
So they're making a Superman movie that's primarily about Batman.
My thing is this, they say that this is going to be how they set up their new Batman, and they're going to borrow from this issue. Mm-hmm. I'm sure the only thing they're going to borrow is the fight.
Surely.
But it is interesting to think about. Some people have been talking on the internet. They're using The Dark Knight Returns, which is a story about Batman coming out of retirement, and Christian Bale is retired at the end of The Dark Knight Rises.
Ain't gonna happen.
I don't think it's going to happen either. I think that's an interesting rumor.
It is. My biggest thing of this is kind of like what I said before. Why do we need Batman in a Superman movie? Is Superman that unmarketable, or they're that worried that they have to bring in Batman so we're for sure gonna get that $1 billion?
No, first of all, Man of Steel did well in the box office,
It did really well.
So Why do we need this?
$638 million was the last figure I heard so far on the Man of Steel, just on its own worldwide. What I honestly believe is that they want a brand new Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think they've made that
Justice
clear.
League.
They want a brand new Batman. They want to have a shared universe for the Justice League. I think this is going to be their way to help movie audiences accept it. That it's not going to be Christian Bale, whereas just starting the Justice League and everyone sitting down and saying, "Wait, where's my Christian Bale?"
Yeah, but let's be honest.
Then have Bruce Wayne be in a Superman movie.
I wish they would have done that.
Yeah, because let's be honest. Like, it's only been 2 years since Dark Knight Rises.
Right.
Okay, so then it's probably be about 4 to 5 years until we see Man of Steel 2. They announced it for 2015.
Yeah.
Okay, so it'll be 2 more years from now, roughly a year and a half.
Right.
That's really not that much time. It's almost like
reboot.
Spider-Man. We went from Tobey Maguire to Andrew Garfield, and now we're going to go from Christian Bale to another one. Like, are people going to throw a big fit about this, or are we just being more nitpicky?
Well, Bale was such a success.
Yeah.
His Batman was so successful. Regardless of what you say about the films or how you feel about his portrayal of Batman,
yes.
It made a lot of money. And a lot of the people that went to see it don't read comic books.
True.
So I think that the average moviegoer is going to be off-put a little by not seeing Bale on the screen. Okay. And this is a nice way to just kind of smooth things over for them. I'm excited to have a Batman-Superman movie. I wish that they weren't calling it the direct sequel to the Man of Steel. I wish it was its own standalone film that could tie into both of their universes. But it is what it is, and I'm pumped.
I'm just curious if it's going to be like Man of Steel 2, Batman versus Superman, or if it'll just be like the title.
I'm sure it'll just be Batman versus Superman.
I hope so. I mean, it just... it frustrates me as a comic fan and really as a pretty avid moviegoer for comic books. If it's DC, we gotta rely on Batman. Right. And if it's Marvel, we gotta rely on Wolverine, which we'll talk about here in a second. But
yeah, I understand that.
It's yeah.
But again, if they're building this big film, it is going to be nice to plug in the new Batman somewhere. I agree with Lawrence. They should have introduced Bruce Wayne. Maybe have him in the same circles as Lex Luthor. Mm-hmm. This way, though, maybe Lex will be running down Superman, and Bruce will start investigating, and that's how the verses will come about. Maybe he will be friends with Lex in this film.
That worries me. If they're borrowing or being inspired by The Dark Knight Returns, Lex Luthor isn't in that novel at all.
He's in the sequel.
He's in the sequel to it, yeah, but he's not in it at all, and it's all about Batman, and then Superman is involved, yes, but it's like, them announcing this really makes me think that they're just like, we've got 5 other movies that we've made that are about the Superman mythos.
Right. And
his characters and his villains, and they did okay for their time, but Superman Returns, which was based the villain of Lex Luthor, just was a flop to no end.
Right.
So are they saying that instead of relying on a good rogues gallery from Superman, that we're just going to rely on
Batman being the
villain until it's like, oh, now he's the good guy, and
I think they'll work together at the end.
In Dark Knight Returns, Superman's kind of the bad guy, I mean,
yeah, in a way, yeah.
And you could see that he could definitely be painted as the bad guy in the next film. Just
I don't know.
If Lex Luthor is in it, promoting, oh, look how bad these aliens are. Look what they did to our city.
Maybe.
I
don't know.
I mean, I don't know. I had high hopes because, the part where Superman and Zod are fighting on the rooftop and Zod sheds his armor.
Yeah.
They're on top of LexCorp.
Yeah.
So, Lex probably has Zod's armor, you know?
And maybe he makes that in his new suit.
That'd be cool.
Suit. I agree. I think how Man of Steel went about, it would be perfect for Lex Luthor's big, Superman is an alien, same kind of aliens that invaded, who's to say he won't turn on us eventually? And
right.
I hope they go that route.
Lex needs to be in this.
Yes, that's the thing, is I want more Superman stuff in a Superman movie. Don't throw in Batman and me just be like, oh, it's another Batman movie, here's my money.
Right, yeah, I really hope that it's Lex manipulating Bruce. I mean, at least for a while, until he figures it out.
Yeah. I don't know. I am excited because, yeah, a Superman and Batman movie would be awesome, but I think I'd be more excited about this if it was a standalone thing and it wasn't considered a sequel to Man of Steel.
Right. I think this is one of the best ways, though, to bring Bruce into this new universe. And hopefully they'll do at least a few hints. They also announced the Flash movie for 2016. So I hope they put in a Green Lantern hint. And then Justice League for 2017. And
there's a good chance.
The way I hope they do Green Lantern is I hope that he's not a rookie, but he's been helping on other worlds because he has a whole space sector to defend. And we tend to forget that. You know, maybe this will be his first mission on Earth, but he's experienced on all these other worlds.
Yeah.
You know, I hope that's the way they do it. Just so that way they can skip over Reynolds.
We'll see. It's just one of those things where we're speculating and going off what little information we have. And I'm sure we'll hear more. I doubt we'll hear more of it this year.
Oh,
I'm sure it'll be till 2014 before we hear more. But
I would like to hear who is going to be Batman. Any picks? Do you guys have anybody you want to see play Batman?
I was talking to Gothrop the other day, and I think he said something about maybe Armie Hammer.
That's mine.
That's who they originally were talking about playing Batman. Whenever they're like years ago, they were talking about making a Justice League movie.
Justice League Mortal.
And I'm like, I could see that. I could see him being Batman. He's kind of big enough.
And him and Henry Cavill are already working together on a movie called The Man from U.N.C.L.E., I believe.
Yeah.
And so depending on how their chemistry is, I would really like to see that. And like you mentioned, he was already cast to play Batman. So there's him. And then
we were just at a movie that bombed.
Right.
That he was the lead in.
But he wasn't the lead in that
Johnny
movie.
Depp was the lead.
The movie was not, but it was not about the Lone Ranger.
Oh. That's hard to argue that whenever the title is The Lone Ranger.
Yeah,
I know.
But it was all about Tonto.
But I would also like to see Carl Urban.
Batman?
As Batman. I would go with that.
Yeah, I could see him even being a really, like, billionaire playboy-esque Bruce Wayne. I could see that.
It would work.
I could see that.
He's got some looks for it.
I just read on the internet before we started recording that Jason Ackleson, who plays Dean in Supernatural, says that he wants to be Batman in Batman vs. Superman.
He did really good in the Red Hood animated cartoon.
Yeah, I think he did.
But I don't know if Batman's quite right for him.
Who knows? I'm just saying, like,
right.
That's honestly, that's probably the thing that excites me the most about this. It's like whenever they announced the Amazing Spider-Man, and everyone's like, "Oh, who'd be a great Spider-Man?" And they had like the big Donald Glover being Peter Parker thing, and like, I'm excited to see what randomness comes out of like
what rumors.
Yeah, not even rumors, but just I want to see a big list of like people make of like, wouldn't this guy be cool as Batman? And I'd also like to see people choose him like based on Batman and based on Bruce Wayne.
Oh, yeah.
I think that'd be cool. But, anyways, let us know in the comments what you guys think about the announcement of Batman vs. Superman. The next kind of big news that came out of Comic-Con was they announced the tagline for the next Avengers movie. So Avengers 2 is not just going to be Avengers 2, it's going to be the Avengers Age of Ultron. And they pretty well said that they're changing all of Ultron's origin for this movie. Originally in the comics, Ultron is this super intelligent artificial intelligence that is created by Hank Pym, which is Ant-Man,
who's not going to show up,
who's not involved in this Marvel phase just yet.
And that makes me so sad that they're not going to have him in Avengers.
They're changing it completely. He's going to be the main villain. Thanos, which was teased at the end of the Avengers, isn't even going to be in Avengers 2.
I'm okay with that.
So
save him for like the third one.
Well, we'll talk about Thanos here in a little bit about what he's going to be doing. But they've just announced that Avengers 2 is going to be Age of Ultron. So it's going to be a lot of robots in the next one, which will be cool. But my thing is like when you think of the Avengers and you think of like a robot, who's the first person that comes to mind?
The Vision?
Well, and it's already in the Avengers movies. You think Iron Man. Yeah. And they've already said that Robert Downey Jr. has only signed on for Avengers 2 and 3. And spoiler alert for Iron Man 3, I'll give you a second. If you haven't seen Iron Man 3 just yet,
shame on you.
Skip ahead about 10 or 15 seconds here, okay? Iron Man, at the end of Iron Man 3, gets rid of his arc reactor heart and blows up all of his suits. And pretty much makes the insinuation that he doesn't need to be or want to be Iron Man anymore.
Right.
So, I'm curious to see how Age of Ultron will go.
Here's my thing. If Tony Stark designs Ultron...
We don't know if that's the case, but maybe he does.
I don't know. It's as though the movie's called Avengers. Yeah. It's not Tony Stark and his amazing friends. You know, it shouldn't all be about Stark. I know he's fantastic. He's a fantastic actor. Yeah. He's a great character. But give me a break.
We'll see. We'll see how things go. I'm excited. I mean, Ultron's a cool villain, and I'm curious to see what, especially Joss Whedon, is going to do with a new origin of Ultron. Like,
he's a big fan of Ultron.
Yeah. Like, I trust. And you also have to remember, in, like, Avengers 2, we're going to get Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch.
Right. So. He said that he didn't know if he could make Avengers work, but he knew that he wanted Ultron to be the villain in the sequel.
Okay.
That's what he said. So hopefully he's already got something cooked up.
Fine by me.
Yeah, we'll just have to see. Time will tell on that. And he's the one that has confirmed that there will be no Ant-Man in his Avengers.
Yeah.
On this project.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
He also said that we'll get to see an evolution. We'll get at least see 2 versions of Ultron.
Oh, okay.
Because as he becomes more intelligent, he'll adapt and evolve probably his body even.
Yeah.
In this picture, so.
CGI robots. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Not since iRobot have I been excited of a humanoid robot.
Which, Vin Diesel has a Marvel announcement.
Yeah.
And soulless robot Vin Diesel. I'm telling you.
Vin Diesel is Ultron?
Vin Diesel is Ultron.
That would make me laugh.
He does the motion cap.
And he has the pitch black glasses. Ultron can only see in the dark. That'd make me laugh. Okay. Well, the next bit of news we'll talk about, and it's not comic book related, so if you're listening to this and you're kind of tired of us talking about comics and stuff, ease here. They have announced at Comic-Con that in the newest season of Family Guy, the cartoon series by Seth MacFarlane on Fox, as it's entering its season 12...
I like how we're pretending like it's so obscure and people don't know what Family Guy is at this point.
You gotta give it a little bit of background.
Everybody knows what Family Guy is.
Their biggest announcement is that in season 12, they're going to kill off a major a family member of the Griffin family. So we're talking either Peter, Lois, Meg, Chris, Brian, or Stewie. One of those 6 are going to die.
Now, here's my thing. As long as the show has ran, shouldn't it be Brian? I mean, he's the family dog. Shouldn't he be out of dog years by now?
Right, but the problem is that Brian and Stewie,
yeah.
Oh, I understand.
Their story on, and it's popular, and then what's Stewie gonna do? He needs Brian to play off of to
They'll
be relevant.
Get a new family dog, Brian too, with the same voice.
Yeah. I think it's gonna be Chris, just because, and we talked about earlier on the TV podcast. Seth Green has his new show, Dads, and plus he's working on Robot Chicken, and plus he's got, who knows how many movies and stuff going on. I just think that he probably doesn't have time to do it anymore.
Well, and it's also one of those things where, look at Meg.
Right.
That is a character that is really just the butt of jokes in that family. That's it. And
she wouldn't be missed very much. Plus Mila Kunis is kind of busy too,
really
so
yeah. So it's
both make sense to me.
But they like to make fun of her a lot.
So yes.
But the show could be just as funny without her.
I could easily see them be like, "Oh, Meg's died?
Okay,
let's move on. Okay, cool, going about her day."
Right. Chris too, kind of,
No funeral.
Yeah, just like bear in the backyard. Let's just go about this. But
Meg.
I'm curious because they've dealt with death in Family Guy before, but very rarely is it a set in stone thing. I really think that Peter's dad and then the female anchor of the TV news program are the only 2 that I think that have really died in that series. So, but we'll see. I'm excited just because mixing things up on a show that's been on for 12 seasons.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Jumping right back into comics here. We talked about...
Well, it was Comic-Con, to be fair.
Yes,
so.
yes. We talked about in our previous episode of our cautiously optimistic movies, one of them being X-Men Days of Futures Past. And they announced at Comic-Con that Wolverine, who we already knew was going to be in the movie, is going to be the time traveler for this. Okay, and we talked about how there's going to be the first X-Men First Class group, which will be like the 60s and 70s, I'm assuming the present day, and then you'll have the future X-Men, which are the ones that we've seen in Bryan Singer's universe of like Cyclops and Professor X and old Professor X and old Magneto and Colossus and Kitty Pryde and things like that. But they announced that Wolverine is going to be the person that brings these two universes together. He's going to be the time traveler.
But Bishop's in the film too, right? And
yes.
Bishop is a future character.
Right.
Yes.
Plus Kitty Pryde is in the movie, and in the story, Kitty Pryde was
and
the time traveler.
Yeah, the comic that's based on is Wolverine and Kitty Pryde are the two time traveling in all this.
Right.
Kitty Pryde, who's going to be played by
Ellen Page.
Ellen Page. She's not going to be doing any time traveling. Juno's going to stay in her future timeline.
See, I thought I read somewhere she'd travel back in time in her own body.
Just going by what they announced at Comic-Con, it's
her
Wolverine
consciousness
is the
goes
time
back.
traveler.
Oh,
Which is weird, because like you said, Bishop, in all of comics, he's
Right.
known as a time traveler.
right.
But to me, it makes me thoroughly upset, because if you guys remember in the previous podcast, I was excited about X-Men First Class because it's an X-Men movie that doesn't rely on Wolverine. And now Bryan Singer comes back into the picture, and Wolverine is center of everything again. Like, I love Hugh Jackman. He's a great Wolverine, he is, but the same thing with, like, Batman. Do we really need to throw in Wolverine is in this movie for non-comic book viewers to go see this movie?
Right. But
People
one thing
love
to look,
Wolverine, though.
they do love Wolverine and Batman, and they have a ridiculous amount of comics between the both of them
Mhm.
Yeah.
in their own universes. But one thing to be positive about is this movie is finally you get some Sentinels.
That's true. You get a lot of Sentinels and you get a tiny Trask.
They had the Sentinel head on display
Mm-hmm.
at Comic-Con. It's kind of neat. You'll have to check out the images for that if you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
But at long last, Sentinels in an X-Men film.
Does it look just like the Sentinel head from X-Men 3?
No,
No,
they kind
it
of
looks
have like
Pretty
a
different.
windshield face.
Yeah.
Like
it
riot
looks-
gear, police riot gear.
Yeah. It looks it looks odd if you think back. Like, it looks nothing like the Sentinels of, like, the X-Men
But
cartoon
purple.
of the 90s.
There's
They're purple. Yeah. But they look pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
At least the head does.
The head looks cool.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see. See how it ends up on film.
Yeah. I'm excited about the movie. I am, as I said in previous times, but I'm so tired of having to have an X-Men movie that's centered on Wolverine. And I'm all excited about them announcing the X-Force movie. But if I get another stinking X-Men movie with Wolverine in it, I'm going to be upset.
What's his X-Force team? Did he have Uncanny X-Force?
Yeah, he was on Uncanny X-Force. He's been on different
And he was on
variations
Astonishing
of X-Force.
X-Force. I guarantee they're going to use
I don't want him.
one of
because
his X-Force teams.
I like Hugh Jackman, I do, and I know he likes playing Wolverine, but like, come on, Fox, please stop relying on this single person. Show people that there are other things in the X-Men universe than Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, and Hugh Jackman. Like, that's why I love First Class. It was such a good movie, and they relied on the characters, not bankable Hugh Jackman.
Right.
But I'm done. I'm done with my rants.
There's a fanboy rant of the week, folks.
Just comic fanboy and movie fanboy. Okay. Along with movies, another big announcement for if you're a big fan of, for instance, if you watch Pacific Rim and you really enjoyed the giant frickin' monsters there, the kaijus, they've announced that in the new Godzilla movie that is in development right now, he will battle multiple monsters.
Yeah, I heard that this was going to be Godzilla defending Earth.
Yeah.
Old school style.
This will be Godzilla in the vein of the traditional Japanese movies. It won't be the Matthew Broderick Godzilla movie that I think a lot of people grew up on.
I'm actually not sure that it would be possible for me to care less about a Godzilla movie
Really?
at this point.
Really? Like, even if you saw
Not even interested.
wonderful CGI Godzilla punching the crap out of wonderful CGI Mothra.
Don't even care.
Really?
No.
I'm excited. I really am. I'm excited to see this.
I'm pumped about it. Like,
It may be terrible, but
see that, but that's the thing. Like, I'm pumped about this because I want to see crappy B-movie Godzilla. Like, that's what I want to see. I don't want
Right.
to see the Godzilla they tried to make in the 90s with Matthew Broderick, like, trying to make it really real, and
right.
I don't
Right.
want that. I just want monsters fighting other monsters. I think it'd be cool.
I hope that they have really bad lip sync on the audio.
That would be really funny, too.
Seriously though, I want a nice looking Godzilla movie. It doesn't have to be super realistic,
Yeah.
like
They're-
the other one. But I'm excited to see this. I think it'll.
They
do well.
are talking that the CGI in this movie will put, like, any other CGI movie you've ever seen to shame.
I hope so.
Like, they're talking as if, like, this will make Avatar look like they used puppets.
Really?
Yes, they're talking that, like, the CGI in this is supposed to be huge, like, really, really nice. It'll be pretty expensive, I'm sure.
Yeah, sounds expensive.
They're putting their eggs in a basket of, this is going to be a reboot franchise. So, we're not talking a single Godzilla movie, we're talking 3, 4, 5.
Huh.
Like, Godzilla just beating up Mothra, and
Oh, again, I'm kind
I
of sleeping through even talking about it.
fair enough.
Just not for me.
One interesting thing they talked about Comic-Con, maybe you guys want to talk about it. I think I feel about this like you feel about Godzilla, and they've announced that in Thor: Dark World, Thor of the Marvel Universe, his sequel, he will lose his hand.
And
I don't
this
know
an
why this
announcement?
is a big news thing.
yeah,
Like,
see, I hadn't
he's
heard
a
anything
god.
about this.
He's a demigod. Thor has always been that way in the comics, and he's going to lose his hand, they say.
Now I know that they were doing when they relaunched Marvel Now or launched Marvel Now, however you want to call what they did,
comics.
the comic books. They started telling future stories of Thor, and he had a
Yeah.
missing hand and a missing eye,
Yeah.
and he used the Destroyer armor for his replacement hand.
Yeah.
So maybe he'll do that, but
Maybe.
it's going to be an interesting Avengers. Thor minus a hand, Tony Stark minus his arc reactor.
Minus all of his suits.
Quite an interesting film they've
I
put
just,
together.
I like this story just because I think Thor is about as interesting as watching paint dry.
Really, I liked the first Thor movie.
I didn't at all. I thought it was
Oh.
really dumb, but I don't like Thor as a character just because the same reason of why Wolverine is really fun to watch for a little while and then you realize, oh, well, he can't die. Like, Thor can't die, theoretically. He's a
Right.
demigod.
See, I
And so
thought that
to make him more human, we're going to cut off his hand.
I
we're gonna
thought
Ash
that
Williams him.
in actual Norse mythology,
Hmm.
their gods could die.
I'm sure, but
But yeah, with it being Marvel, who knows how it's going to
I
go.
don't know. Thor's
Too powerful for you.
Thor's just not interesting.
Yeah.
He just seems so out of place in the whole universe.
But he's so handsome.
Let him be handsome in other movies. But, okay. We talked previously about the Avengers sequel and Age of Ultron, and Thanos isn't going to be in that. But they did confirm at Comic-Con this year that Thanos will be in Guardians of the Galaxy, which is the first movie of Marvel's Phase 2.
No.
Well,
Iron Man 3 was the first movie of Phase 2.
Was it?
I'm pretty
Okay.
sure.
Alright, well, then I'll rephrase the statement of this will be the first movie in Phase 2 that's not a sequel.
Okay.
So,
Alright, fair enough.
new characters, new everything. Guardians of the Galaxy are pretty much, think of like a small police squad that protects the entire universe that consists of a human, I don't know if he's human or at least he's humanoid.
Right.
Um,
It depends. Sometimes he's human, sometimes
yeah, but
he has alien ancestors.
he's a guy, and on that squad you're gonna have a giant tree that can talk, and you're gonna have a small, tiny little raccoon that can talk. So, but it makes me laugh that they announced that Thanos is gonna be in this because they pretty much said this is the only thing that's tying Guardians of the Galaxy back to the Marvel universe that we know in movies, like the Avengers and stuff, and that is Do you remember Thanos at the end of the Avengers? Now he's in Guardians of the Galaxy. Don't you want to go see it? Like, this movie is so far off compared to anything else that Marvel's doing. I am right now saying it on the record. This movie will flop. This movie will flop so hard due to the reason of it doesn't have a Robert Downey Jr. or a Samuel L. Jackson in it to really bring in people that like it. And they're characters that no one's ever heard about before. And they've done a really poor job of... And maybe they'll ramp up advertising once they have more things on film, but I don't know. There's a lot of big names on it. Like they announced that Glenn Close is going to be in it. She's going to be like a higher up administrator dude. Or dudette. In this case.
I can't think of her name. There was someone from Doctor Who. It's going to be.
Yeah.
Is it Gillian Jacobs? Is that her name?
Yeah, no, that Gillian Jacobs is Britta in the Community, I think.
No.
Are you sure?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Britta. Sorry.
Getting rid of Britta. Getting rid of the bee.
Are you looking it up?
Yes, I can.
Jordan, did you find that girl's name?
Yeah, Karen Gillian.
That's it. She played Amy Pond on Doctor Who, and she was
okay.
fantastic on there, so
Alright.
maybe she'll do alright in this movie. But my thing is, as you said, think of cops in space, or how did you word it?
It's like a small group of cops.
Think Green Lanterns without the cool rings.
Yeah, but instead of cool rings, you got cool tree thing and sassy talking cartoon raccoon.
I probably will not see this Marvel film in theaters because I couldn't care less.
We'll see. I think it depends on what the trailer looks like if I decide to see it in theaters or not. I don't know. I'll eventually watch it because...
It might depend on how bad my
funny.
son wants to see it.
That's true. That is true. Zoe Saldana from just tons of different
Losers.
movies. Chris Pratt from Parks and
Star
Rec.
Trek.
And then they're gonna have people in it like John C. Reilly is in it, Glenn Close, Lee Pace, Benicio del Toro is going to be the villain, the big I think he's considered the number one villain of it. I'm not sure, but yeah.
Yeah, I could care less.
And it's directed by James Gunn, and I want to watch Super because I've heard it's a pretty interesting movie. So yeah. All right. Next on the list is they're talking about a Dredd 3D sequel. Okay, and they talked about how whenever the new Dredd movie came out in theaters,
It did poorly.
Critics actually liked it. They thought it was a pretty good movie, but box office wise, it didn't do very well. When it came out on DVD, though, it became a cult hit.
Oh yeah.
DVD sales were fantastic on it. And so what they've done now is that a movie is guaranteed a sequel if it does well in box office.
Right.
Since it didn't, they were pretty well scrapping it. Now that it's back, Carl Urban, the guy who played Judge Dredd, came out and saying that he would love to do a sequel, and he has helped start a petition to have a Dredd 3D 2.
Now, it was my understanding that they were doing a sequel regardless, but it was coming in comic book form.
Yeah.
This, I don't know. I enjoyed the film. I hated the slow motion. I got so sick of it. It was cool at first, but they just were beating a dead horse. I mean,
that's their thing. That's stylized now. That's a big thing. I liked Dredd a lot. It was a lot of fun, and it was good to see. It was a very gritty, dark world, and it stayed that way, and it never really felt super hokey or anything like that.
It felt like an 80s movie.
Yeah.
Made today in some ways, but it was way better than Stallone's.
Oh yeah, well, Stone's Dredd is very campy and very slapsticky. Yeah, it's a Stallone movie, hardcore. And Rob Schneider, yeah. But I really enjoyed it. I'd like to see more of Carl Urban's Dredd. I think he was.
I would rather see Carl Urban be Batman.
Yeah, that too. Honestly, yeah.
But no, if he's gonna be Dredd again, then yeah, that'd be something I would probably watch.
Yeah. And then the last big part of news that we'll go over today is at the Amazing Spider-Man panel, which, first of all, I want to point out that at the panel, Andrew Garfield came in the Spider-Man costume and attended the panel in character.
Really?
He was Peter Parker Spider-Man for the panel. And apparently that was one of the most popular ones because kids in Comic-Con, like, they go there because they want to see their favorite movie characters, and, like, he was there.
Yeah, they want to see
like,
their
that's
heroes.
Really cool. Yeah, I thought that was pretty neat. But Mark Webb introduced that we already know that in Amazing Spider-Man 2, the villains are going to be Electro and maybe possibly Rhino as well.
Real short, from what I understand.
Yeah,
Real short on Rhino.
But he introduced the idea that in Amazing Spider-Man 3, and remember, they're making 4 movies now instead of 3, but in the third one, he's talking about how he would like the villain of it to be a character called the Gentleman, which is kind of just like this vague character that brings together the Sinister Six. Sinister Six has always been just different villains here and there, but we're talking like the Vulture and Sandman and maybe Doc Ock and maybe Electro himself again, that kind of, the Shocker.
Yeah, I
just
thought
the idea that 6 Spider-Man villains all together taking on just Spider-Man.
See, I thought it was going to be a lot of them that we had already seen.
They
bring
haven't
back
really
the
said,
Rhino, and that was.
It would make sense to do that.
But I really thought they were holding out for the 4th one for that.
I think they're really maybe. I think the 4th one's going to be like Green Goblin and Death of Gwen Stacy, possibly.
I thought that was going to be the 2nd. Spoiler alert!
Yeah, well, they've already announced way back that they're wanting to use the Death of Gwen Stacy storyline for this Spider-Man franchise, just because it's more focused on Gwen Stacy love interest. Right. But what would happen was they're already filming Amazing Spider-Man 2, and then Sony was like, hey, if you can you get us another movie out of this if it's at all possible? And so they made a 4th one, and the girl playing Mary Jane, they're like, yeah, come back next time when we make the 3rd one. So Mary Jane is not in the 2nd one at all.
Yeah, she was cast for the 2nd one.
She was cast for the 2nd one, and they're like,
they have to push her because they're piling in so much stuff. I hope it all works out good. Yeah. You know, I kind of get nervous when you hear so many villains being thrown in.
I know, like, I've never honestly liked the Sinister Six storylines because it's so unbelievable that the 6 of them can't take down one of him.
Well, that's the thing.
He's the amazing Spider-Man.
Right.
He's pretty cool. He's pretty cool.
He's pretty amazing.
I get it, but
that's the thing is you look and there's very few heroes. Captain Planet on
evil Captain Planet.
What was the evil Captain Planet's name? I can't remember.
I don't remember.
I remember that.
Captain Pollution.
Was it?
I think.
Okay, I'll have to look that up after the show. But I'm cool with it. I like the idea of a Sinister Six in the movie because
it's just there's going to be so much going on. It's going to be so hard to keep track of everyone.
The Avengers,
yeah, the Avengers was. I mean, at times was kind of hard to keep track of during that last fight scene where they're all flying around and you just see people everywhere. It's like. Yeah. It's like, okay, I've seen enough Hawkeye in this movie. Let's go to someone I care about now.
See that right there. I think that's how they can do it with Sinister Six. Yeah, there's not going to be. I'm sure there's going to be 1 or 2 villains that aren't really all that fantastic, but at least they're ambitious. At least they're trying to give us something new and not just a superhero movie where we've already had the Lizard, Doc Ock, Green Goblin, Venom, Sandman, and now we're trying new ones. Like, I'm cool with that. Mm-hmm. Keep trying your stuff. Like,
Spider-Man has a ton of rogues,
and he has really good villains too.
They can keep going.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it'll be good, and I don't know. I think it'll work really well in that universe. Yeah. They're introducing in the 2nd movie Norman Osborn and Harry Osborn.
Right.
So we might really start to see this universe. We've already got it. We already know what's going on here. We've got Spider-Man and everything, and now we can really build into that, hopefully.
Yeah.
But I'm excited. I think if they can do with Spider-Man what they did with the Avengers, that'd be really cool.
I liked the first one. I'm excited about it.
You just don't want to have to worry about 6 people on screen.
It just seems like so many people.
I'm cool with it. I'm curious if they're gonna even go into like the symbiote and stuff like that. Maybe
I would be interested to see Venom.
Who knows?
A better Venom in these films than Topher Grace.
Topher Grace. Honestly, I think in the Spider-Man movies, whenever you didn't see Topher Grace's face, when it was just like Venom, it looked cool.
Right.
And I was on board
Right, but the problem was every time he talked, it peeled back and it was his face.
Yeah.
You know,
time.
The thing that I don't want is I don't want the third one to be a musical where they have to dance every 15 minutes in the film.
See, I disagree.
That was the most dancing
I want that to be Spider-Man
I'd ever
3,
seen
a musical.
in a non-musical film. It was awful.
What was the name of this musical?
Spider-Man Enter the Dark or
Something in the Dark.
Like
something like that. And it was
Spider-Man 3.
It was
Yeah.
The whole play, the whole musical, I think is based off of Spider-Man 1.
Oh,
like
really?
Green Goblin is the villain, I think, but I'm not sure. I haven't seen it, and I have no interest in seeing it.
Right.
Anytime Bono is the one that made the music for a musical, I don't know if I want to watch it. Sorry, you two fans, they're just not my cup of tea. And then the last thing that is considered like the biggest news stories that came out of Comic-Con for like movies and stuff was George Romero's classic zombie flick, Dawn of the Dead, like what was considered like the beginning of zombie films. They're going to do a 3D conversion of that. So if you guys like classic 70s zombies movies, they're going to make it in 3D. I think I can speak for all of us for all three of us when I say, meh. Yeah.
I'll watch it. I probably won't watch it in 3D. I mean, I like the original Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
I would watch it again in theaters, but I'm so over 3D by this point.
I'm with you.
I'm done with 3D.
Yeah.
Stop with the 3D. I know you make more money on tickets, but just stop.
And honestly, that's all it comes down to, is that as long as people keep going to watch them, they're going to keep making them.
I read somewhere the other day they talked about just the inflation of movie tickets from year to year to year.
Yeah.
And they said that every single year prior to this year, the price of movie tickets, have steadily increased. And the idea of it being that they've increased along with like inflation and increased of every year movie studios want a little bit more money back from the tickets.
Yeah.
Well, this year, or I shouldn't say this year, but last year's season, since there was just an influx of 3D movies that take more money to make, the movie studio said, we want a bigger percentage from the movie tickets. So movie theaters had to increase those ticket prices because they also have to get some money as well.
Yeah.
Because in reality, movie theaters only get like a very small percentage of the movie ticket price.
So again, I say stop making 3D movies and solve the problem.
Hey, I'm with you, but Hollywood is really big on no new ideas.
That's true.
So it's not I don't think we're going to see. I think we're forever going to see reboots in 3D and things like that. But all right, so that is just a short little list of the big news stories that came out of Comic-Con this year. Let us know in the comments what you guys think. If you agree with our stances on things like Man of Steel 2 or the Avengers or X-Men or Peter Griffin, anything like that, let us know. And then we will see you next time on another episode of Epic Groupcast. In the meantime, like us on Facebook, Twitter, follow us, all that fun stuff. You know how to internet. YouTube, subscribe.
Invite me into your van. Bring me candy.